The housing market might be turning a corner because it looks like things are starting to change. CNBC put out an article where they said that home buyers are finally catching a break as listings are starting to rise while mortgage rates continue to drop. What's up everybody, I am Jaspreet Singh from the MinorityMindset.com, where money minds rethink rich. The housing market between 2020 and 2021 has been one wild roller coaster. When this pandemic first hit, everybody was scared and housing sales completely stopped. The entire housing market stalled. That's when the Federal Reserve Bank came out and they slashed interest rates and the mortgage rates went below 3% for the first time in history. For the first time in history in 2020, you could go out and borrow money on a 30-year fixed rate mortgage at less than 3% a year in interest. That's when two things happened. On one end, you had a group of people that were like, wow, this is a great opportunity for me to go out and buy a home because I can capitalize on these low mortgage rates. So you had some people going out and starting to buy a home. And then on the second hand, you had people that were already homeowners saying, whoa, I'm paying 4 or 5% a year on my mortgage right now. This is a great opportunity for me to refinance. And so you saw a massive refinance boom happen in 2020 because so many people were able to save so much money on their mortgages just by refinancing the mortgage to a new cheaper loan. Then the housing market started to boom like we've never seen happen before. It was kind of like the perfect storm because we had three different factors come together at the perfect time, which caused housing prices to skyrocket. First, we had the lowest mortgage rates that we have ever seen in the history of time, which made people want to go out and take advantage of these cheap loans. Second, we had a very small inventory of homes available for sale because one, we had this mortgage forbearance program. Two, we had this eviction and this foreclosure moratorium that was going on. Three, some people were scared to sell their homes because of the pandemic going on. And four, it was very costly and very time consuming to go out and build a home because we had a labor shortage and a material shortage, which made building a home very expensive and very time consuming. And the third factor on top of these low mortgage rates and this limited supply of homes is this massive demand for people wanted to go out and buy a home. Some people wanted to go and buy a home because of this pandemic. They realized that they could finally work from home, so they were moving out of cities, or they wanted to upgrade so they had a bigger home. And so you had a lot of people that wanted to buy a home so they had a bigger home to live in. And then you had people that wanted to buy a home because, well, they wanted to take advantage of these cheap mortgage rates. These three factors together, super low mortgage rates, a small supply of homes available for sale, and massive demand to go out and buy a home, came together to cause a perfect storm in the housing market, which caused home prices to skyrocket. And now it looks like this perfect storm might be coming to an end. Or if not coming to an end, at least slowing down temporarily, because CNBC says that home buyers might be finally catching a break because now we're starting to see the inventory of homes rise while mortgage rates continue to stay low. Now, before I get into exactly what's going on, I need you to do me a quick favor and smash that thumbs up button below. And if you haven't already, be sure to join our brand new free Discord server where you can chat with other minority mindset thinkers. This community is completely free and we call it the Guac Talk community because, as we all know, extra guac is truly a symbol of wealth. And in this community, you can chat with other minority mindset thinkers about the real estate market, about the stock market, about the cryptocurrency market, and about all things building wealth. So if you want to learn more and start chatting for free, I got a link to how you can join our free community on Discord in the description below. So what this article says is we've been seeing this perfect storm in the real estate market like I've just talked about, but this perfect storm might be slowing down because the strong demand and record low supply of homes are starting to ease while mortgage rates are also coming down again. The easiest way to understand the housing market is just to think of supply and demand. If we go back to just over a year ago when we had a toilet paper shortage, we had a short supply of toilet paper and a lot of demand for toilet paper. When that happened, toilet paper prices skyrocketed because people started hoarding toilet paper and people were selling one roll of toilet paper for $10 to $20. So back then you had supply of toilet paper way down here and the demand for toilet paper way up here. Well, eventually the supply of toilet paper started to come back up while the demand for toilet paper was still there, and that's when toilet paper prices started to fall because now you had more supply. So that's how supply and demand works. About a decade ago, after the 2008 crash, things were flipped because back then we had a massive supply of homes available for sale. There were so many home foreclosures, people were underwater on their homes, so everybody was selling their homes and there was no demand to buy homes because people didn't have money to go out and buy a home. So now things were flipped and so home prices kept falling because you had all these people trying to sell their homes and nobody wanting to buy, so people were having to compete against each other. Sellers were fighting against each other to sell their homes, and the way that they fought against each other was by cutting their prices. And so this brought home prices down because you had so many sellers and not that many buyers. What we're seeing happen in the housing market in this decade decade is the complete opposite as a decade ago, because now we're seeing the toilet paper phenomenon, where right now we had so many people that want to buy a home. So now we have demand way up here and the supply of homes are way down here. But what this article is saying is we're finally starting to see supply inch up a little bit and this demand is starting to creep down while mortgage rates continue to stay low. So for the people that want to buy a home, this is great news, because now you're starting to see more homes available for sale. So you have more options and varieties of homes available for sale, and you're also competing against less people because now the demand is starting to cool down just a little bit while mortgage rates are low, meaning it's still affordable for you to go out and get a mortgage. Now I already know what you're thinking. Jaspreet, does this mean the housing market is about to crash? No, there's a lot more to it than that. What Redfin's chief economist Daryl Fairweather says is that, quote, many buyers have backed away from the housing market and they are waiting until more and better homes are listed because buyers don't have the same sense of urgency that they did in the beginning of 2021. So buyers are not racing to buy before prices increase because prices have already increased and stabilized. In other words, that whole craze of I gotta buy a home right now before prices go up even more is starting to settle down because people are getting outpriced. Home prices have already gone up so much, and so people are just waiting for a good opportunity for them instead of just trying to buy homes to buy homes. Not to mention the fact that it's just getting more expensive to buy a home, and a lot of first-time home buyers just don't have the money to go out and afford homes right now because homes are so expensive. This article says more than half of all homes that were sold in June 2021 sold for above their asking price. So if you're trying to buy a home and you have a budget, it can be very hard to buy a home within that budget right now because everything keeps selling for more than what the asking price is. The CoreLogic CEO says that younger and first-time home buyers, including younger millennials, are faced with the challenge of having sufficient savings for a down payment, closing costs, and cash reserves because home prices keep going up. And if you tell yourself that you can only spend $300,000 on a home and you go and look at a home that's on sale for $295,000 and then it sells for $350,000, well, you can't really compete because you were looking at a home that was within your budget but it sells for way above your budget. Does this mean that we're finally going to start to see home prices come down? Well, according to this article, no. What Fannie Mae's chief economist says is despite the pessimism in home buying conditions, we expect demand for housing to persist at an elevated level throughout the rest of the year. Meaning, yeah, things might be slowing down a little bit right now and things might be really expensive, but they still expect us to see this massive demand which will make up for these higher prices, which will continue to push housing prices up at least through the rest of the year. Now, if you are in the market for a home right now, just make sure that when you are shopping around, you know what you want. You know what area you want to live in, you know how much you can afford for the down payment, and you know what you can afford for the monthly payment before you start looking for a home and before you fall in love with a home, because the last thing you want to do is to fall in love with a home and then you find out that this home is going to stretch you way too thin and now you're going to be living paycheck to paycheck just to afford the home that you're living in. So know what you can afford beforehand and get pre-qualified beforehand, because if you're not pre-qualified, you're not going to have a chance to compete in this housing market. And when you're looking for a mortgage, make sure you shop around with different lenders, because some lenders are going to charge you a whole lot more on the exact same mortgage or refinance than another lender. So just spend a little bit of time to shop around. By the way, shopping around doesn't have to be a major chore anymore because you can just use the internet to use a mortgage comparison tool. And the following is an advertisement from our sponsor Credible, who operates a mortgage comparison website. At Credible, you can check pre-qualified mortgage and refinance rates at no charge to you. They have multiple lenders competing on their marketplace, so you can compare great rates and pick the option that's best for you. The process is really simple. All you have to do is go onto Credible's website and enter in a few pieces of information, which just takes a few minutes, and then Credible will present you with actual pre-qualified rates from different lenders. That way you can compare. And the best part of all is that Credible's pre-qualification process is easy to use. It only takes a few minutes, and checking pre-qualified rates does not affect your credit score. So if you want to learn more and see what mortgage or refinance rates you might qualify for, I got the link to how you can do that with Credible in the description below. Now, just so we're on the same page, Credible does pay minority mindset and advertising fee when you submit a pre-qualification request, and Credible Operations Inc. NMLS number 1681276 is not available in all states. So if you want to learn more and see what mortgage or refinance rates you might qualify for, I got the link to how you can do that with Credible in the description below. CNBC just put out an article where they're talking about the buyer side of this housing market, because they put out an article titled "Why Buyers Are Walking Away from the Housing Market." The article walks you through the story of somebody named Kelly Robinson, who who's trying to buy a home, and she has a budget of $250,000 to buy a home. But the issue is she goes and looks at a home, and then these homes have multiple offers. Some of these homes have 10 or more offers, and then they go and they sell for sometimes $100,000 more than asking price, which makes it very hard for somebody to go out and buy a home, especially if you have a budget for how much you want to spend. And the thing that I found very interesting about this article is that she says that some people are now buying homes without any sort of inspection contingencies. So the way the home buying process works is when you find a home you like, you want to make an offer to the seller, and within your offer you can add in whatever contingencies you want. One contingency that you always want to have is a due diligence contingency, where you have somewhere between 3 days and 10 days to walk through the property with your own building inspector and see what is wrong or what could potentially be wrong with the property. And if there's something that you don't like with the property, you can walk away and you don't owe anything to the seller. The reason why I'm so adamant about this is because I'm a real estate investor, and there was one property that I purchased without a property inspection, and that property came back to bite me in the butt because I did not realize how many issues were within the property that I could have caught if I just did an inspection in the property before I bought it. So if you are going to buy a property, you always want to have a property inspection. By the way, if you want to see more of the issues that I faced, I already made a video where I talked about that. It was my worst real estate deal ever, and I'll link that video for you in the description below. Right now we're in this market where buyers are really having to compete against each other to put out an attractive offer to get it accepted by a seller. And one of the things that buyers are doing are not just raising the price and not just making the terms more favorable, but they're also getting rid of this due diligence contingency. They're getting rid of the property inspection contingency, so buyers are just buying the home without even inspecting the property, so they don't really know what they're buying. Because if you are not a professional real estate investor, if you're not a professional real estate person, you're not going to know what to look for exactly. A building inspector's job is to find all the issues in the property, and if you buy a home without this contingency, then you could be buying a ticking time bomb if you don't know what's inside. I know the housing market is crazy right now, but the last thing you want to do is jump into something emotionally because you don't want to miss out, and then you find out a couple of years later that you bought a property that has $30,000 worth of issues that could have been fixed if you just knew about this beforehand. Be smart and be patient, and don't jump into something emotionally because you don't want to miss out on the next big deal. If you enjoyed this video, here's a video on how to build wealth that I think you'll love, and while you're at it, download a free money management PDF, and as always, keep hustling. When I was first looking at properties back during the 2008 crash, I took my mom with me a few times, and these properties were ugly. I mean, they were beaten up, they had mold and mildew inside, but they were selling for dirt cheap